What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Quest for 18 podcast. I am joined by Jake, Earl, and Alex. Of course, if you're from Twitter, YouTube, or etc., shout out to you. What's going on? And if you haven't, subscribe, give a follow, and everything else going on. How's everybody doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Can't complain. Excited for another fun episode of Quest for 18. Like Alan said, shout out to Twitter, live on YouTube for the first time as well. So for wherever you're coming from, we appreciate y'all stopping by.
I'll go next, but yeah, it's good to be here. This is my second time doing this episode on Playback. It's the third time for you guys. It's always a nice experience. It's all about Lakers basketball. Still nothing in terms of our Lakers roster, but there's a lot of Olympic action for sure that we can talk about. A lot of other interesting news that I'm excited to get into right now.
Yeah, I couldn't hear you guys at first because I had everything on mute for some reason. So apologies for that. But yeah, I'm excited to get going. Still a lot to talk about, and yet still nothing with the Lakers roster specifically. So hopefully we'll get some breaking news during this one. I'm still optimistic.
Wasn't one of you guys' hot takes last week that there was gonna be like a trade or something that happened like before today's show? I feel sorry for whoever that was.
Yeah, that might have been me. My bad.
And then I regretfully doubled down on it. So yeah.
Of course, like is going on outside of leads, at least for the Lakers, there isn't at least news around at least the team, but there's some outside news that are both great and wonderful. And speaking, like I said, of great and wonderful news, Kobe Bryant's second statue is set to be unveiled. It will be a private unveilment, per David McMenamin of ESPN. He says that the statue will be held on 8 to 2028 to 2024, which of course is similar to 8 and 24, and also number 2 for Gigi. And the statue will be located near the LA Kings moment celebrating this team's 50th anniversary, and it will be open to the public starting Saturday morning. So, at least everyone here, what are your thoughts about at least the next Kobe Bryant statue appearing, and also at least the memories and thoughts about the Lakers continuing adding statues to honor Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, I think it's great. First of all, I'll say I know last time there was a couple like misspellings on the last statue, so hopefully they got things together this time. I mean, they've had plenty of time to kind of adjust. But yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully the ceremony goes well. It's always hard thinking about, the way Kobe Bryant passed as well as his daughter and other people who are involved in that accident. And it's cool to see the Lakers continue to honoring his legacy. So it's a statue too. I'm really excited to see it. I know you guys are. Unfortunately, I probably won't see it in person for a while until I'm able to go out there. But yeah, I think it's gonna turn out great, hopefully. And shout out to the Lakers for continuing on that legacy.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting that we finally got some news on the second statue. I believe the early reports about the Kobe statue said that there was going to be 3 in total. So hearing about the second one is really nice news. I do hope that, like Earl said, there were a couple of spelling mistakes, couple of things that some like details that were wrong with the statue. Hopefully that gets remedied a bit. But it's just nice that they're putting on this gesture to really honor the legacy of Kobe, considering how big he has been to the Lakers and to the basketball community in general. Just continuing to honoring what he's done in his entire life. The article that Dave McMahon also put out said that the third statue is going to be unveiled sometime next season. So that's a little bit more of a turnaround time, a longer turnaround time from the second to the third than the first to the second. Nonetheless, I still think it's really cute that they're keeping up with the numbers. August 2nd, 8-2. I think that's really cute that they're still year 24 too. So I think it's really nice they're keeping up with the numbers. Again, just part of even the little things to honor that legacy, and honoring Gigi as well, as her last team number was number 2, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. She wore number 2. I'm really excited to see both of them in this new statue. I got to work in downtown LA by the Staples Center for a couple months recently. And I got to see the statue before they fixed the mistakes and all of that. And it was pretty funny, but also really sad because, like, how did that happen? But I also saw it after it was fixed, and I can tell you guys, like, even on the most random day where there's no game or nothing at Staples Center, there's a ton of people who just come by and see the statue. There's always like people out there taking pictures with it, and it's something like really fun to see, I think, just growing up in LA. This next one should be really great too. I know the third one is probably expected to be like the arms stretched out like this, 24 after winning championship number 5 against the Celtics for Kobe. This one, obviously, probably just him walking with Gigi, but all three together are going to be so memorable. And I still think the Lakers are going to be at Staples Center, at least as we call it, for a long time. So I'm really excited to see all that happen. And it's been a long time. It's weirdly been such a long time since the last statue. I get why they're spaced out, but I forgot it was even something that was going to happen, around now, until we all, saw the reports today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like it's one of those things that just sneak up on you. It just shows you how fast time's going. Because, like you said, I completely forgot. Like, tomorrow is 8-2, which, like, we were talking about it before. Jake brought it up. I'm like, it's just crazy to think about. So, yeah, shout out to the Lakers once again for continuing on the legacy of Kobe, and in this case too, like, honoring like what felt like was important in his life as well, his family, like Gigi as well. Like, her having a statue out there is important as far as like for the Bryant family too. So wishing Vanessa and all the kids all the love in the world. I know it's definitely emotional times going through these things, especially like having these like reminders. They're good, obviously good reminders, but at the same time, they can be kind of like hurtful at the same time as well. So hopefully all things go well and the ceremony is good. Once again, like we said, hopefully the letters are good this time. Everything is perfect as it should be. But yeah, I'm excited to see how it looks on Twitter. And like Jake mentioned as well, like, we all know the ominous big 24 is coming soon. And what better photo to give in that one? And I'm excited to see that comes out.
Yeah, I agree. I also saw that the ceremony was gonna be private. I know the first one, they like had a ceremony with like limited access for media and Lakers members of like the Lakers team and staff and front office and whatnot. And it was like live streamed for those in the public and opened up a day or two later. In terms of private ceremony, I'm curious if they're like gonna make it even more private than it was last time, which was most likely on the decision of the Bryant family. So absolute respects to whatever that decision may be. I'm pretty sure more information will come out, as this report just dropped under 30 minutes ago as well. But it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this unveiling situation and this unveiling process, and how the Lakers decides to continue to honor that legacy even years after Kobe's very unfortunate passing. But yeah, the ceremony is set to be private. Again, I'm not sure if private means the same thing as the first ceremony or something even more dialed down. Either way, it'll be up to what the Bryant family and the Lakers organization assumes to be the best.
Of course, moving forward and speaking of least the best news, let's talk about Max Christie. And he had a short interview with Jovan Bua on his YouTube channel, and he went through a really extensive talk about not only his season but also an outlook about the offseason, what he's looking to improve, and how can he be a main staple in JJ Redick's system. And one of his reasons for resigning is that he wanted to be a Laker, and I want to come back. I think we have a really good team, and at least, well, I don't know if you guys saw at least that quotes or his video. So, what are your thoughts about Max Christie, and what could he be moving forward?
Yeah, I'll just say the thing I liked about the interview, um, he just looked happy. Like for the first time, I'm seeing Max Christie kind of excited to lock in for a Lakers season. And I'm also excited that JJ Redick talked to him about what his role possibly could be leading up to the season. I feel like those are two things we haven't really seen like in the Darvin Ham system. It seems like the communication is really off. I mean, we've seen clips of players talking about it and jokes going around online. I remember that one time when someone asked him like something Darvin Ham related on his Twitch stream, and he just laughed about it, which was funny to see. But it already seems like he's off to a good relationship with JJ Redick, and that makes me really excited. So going into the season, it's way too early for a hot take. I'm not gonna give it yet. But I'll just say I'm expecting Max Christie to have a really, really improved season. And I think his hard work, not a lot of people see what he's been putting in the gym. As much as us like Lakers fans who follow those journeys during the offseason. Like his year 1 to 2 journey, like he gained a lot of muscle. We talked about how kind of skinny he was. And seeing this all put in the work as well. Shoot three. His defense, how that can help the team next season is something he talked about as well. And getting to see those improvements and him having a stable rotation spot on this team, I think is going to be huge, not only for his confidence, but I think it will pan out to be one of the best value NBA contracts when it's all said and done. So I'm glad he gave us the opportunity because he didn't have to. Like he probably could have got a deal somewhere else, probably got a better role, but he decided to stay with us and believe in the Lakers and this team. And I think that's going to pay off huge for us just as a whole and for his career as well. So, Max Christie, I appreciate you re-signing because after those last year and a half ish with Darvin Ham, I probably wouldn't do the same thing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he improves this season. JJ Redick, you're a real one because us Lakers fans know what Max Christie brings, and I'm glad JJ Redick sees his value as well. So that gives me a lot of confidence that he won't just get thrown away in the roster this season.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree. It was interesting hearing Max Christie's perspective on how he feels about the next season, and like Earl said, saying how like optimistic he was despite having multiple DMPs and just like really shaky communication with the coaching staff throughout the last season. We saw such a promising summer league, such a promising idea of development. This like possibility of like Max Christie is really developing, has so much potential up all the way to this like sky high potential, and that was used extremely minimally and extremely poorly by last year's coaching staff. And of course, like us as fans are frustrated about it. You can only imagine how Max Christie, the actual player whose career really matters on like getting opportunity, how Max Christie feels about it too. So to hear him be a little bit more optimistic and have this like forward thinking mindset throughout that interview and his overall just preparation for year 3 is a really good sign. It also makes me think that there is better communication between him and JJ Redick. I think also the fact that JJ Redick was drawn up plays for Dalton Connect at the draft day also says a lot about the work that JJ Redick is putting in. Now, obviously, that's going to translate into the games, and that'll be the real judgment day. But as of now, it's nice seeing the amount of preparation that JJ Redick and his coaching staff has been putting in for these younger players as well. I think the role of Max Christie, especially if we don't get any new players, is going to be elevated a lot. I think if we're not getting a lot of new players, I think the team will just assume or like ride on giving Vandal a bigger role if he stays healthy, ride on Gabe Vincent staying healthy and having a big role, and then ride on Max Christie staying healthy and actually being given the chance to play significant minutes. He's shown a lot of defensive potential, especially in the most recent last season. He could really be an important 3-and-D guy with a little bit more development. And I think if, unfortunately, year 2, he didn't have as much opportunity as many people think he deserves. But at the end of the day, it is the work year 3 max sounds like he's going to put in the work to show that he really deserves it. And I think JJ Redick seems really open to like giving him those chances too, especially given how little roster movement or roster additions there have been on the Lakers side of things. So the poll in the chat, Earl says, will Max Christie have a breakout year? I think it's definitely a possibility. I think the breakout might not start right away. It might start like a little bit like in the second half of the season, but I can definitely see him doing really great things as he starts getting used to having a more elevated, more bigger role on the squad.
Yeah, I like what you just said there, Alex. I think a really good point is the second half of the season, we're probably going to see more out of Max Christie because assuming the roster stays the same, assuming that we continue to slightly have early season struggles as we have the last few years, you're going to need to get a lot out of guys like Max Christie. And I think JJ and Max are a great match because he knows what Max brings to the table. I felt like Darvin understood that we didn't have a lot of two-way guys. Like it was evident, whether it was D'Lo and Rui being great on offense and not defense, Austin at times struggling on defense, Vando being good at defense and not always consistent on offense, or Cam Reddish being good at defense and couldn't hit a corner three. I feel like Darvin understood it, but he didn't understand Max, I think, and Max's game. A lot of fans would say that. And JJ understands that Max is one of the rare 3-and-D players they have on the roster. And then also, to me, one of the only players they have who I would probably trust guarding like 1 through 4. LeBron in his prime could guard 1 through 5. AD in a sense kind of can guard 1 through 5, but Max Christie actually has the guard quickness on defense plus the height to match up with that. So I think he's going to be very, very important to the Lakers, especially if we don't have a trade. But I also think he becomes less important to the overall outlook of the team if we make a trade for a Cam Johnson or a Jeremy Grant or some of the rumored guys, because that guy, that type of player would be the most likely to take Max's minutes. But I'm really happy that he's back on the Lakers. He obviously is loyal to the team that drafted him and took a chance on him, because I thought Earl also had a really good point. Like, if I were playing under Darvin Ham for the last few years and basically, I think you could even say unfairly being benched at times or not playing any minutes when he should have, I probably wouldn't have re-signed with that team either, who seemed a little bit like a mess. But the Lakers took care of him, and I actually did feel like it was a generous offer despite how talented he is. He's probably more talented than the money suggests. His actual production and usage were low for 2 years. So this contract to me feels like a generous offer and one that's going to be good for both sides, because ultimately, if he keeps getting a chance, he's going to prove to be worth more than that contract. So a lot of people can't see that now, but us Lakers fans know that he could easily be worth more than that contract. So I'm really excited for this year for Max. I also want to just again agree with Alex that I think his breakout is more going to come in the second half. And if we make the playoffs and things go well, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a very crucial seventh man off the bench for the playoffs for us.
And there's no more Prince taking away my Max Christie minutes. No offense. I know Prince, he had his moments. He played consistent, but I mean, Prince, there's only one more person on this roster who could potentially take minutes who shouldn't. Cam Reddish, but we'll move on.
Honestly, you bring up a really interesting point about bringing up Torian Prince. I feel like a lot of people say that like the Lakers have like a lot of 3-and-D guys. I don't think that's true. I feel like a lot of people say that like there are guys who were brought to the Lakers that were supposed to like fill a 3-and-D role, but like almost all of them are not at that level, either in the 3 level or the defense level or both. I feel like people said that about Torian Prince. Obviously, in terms of 3-point shooting, he has his highs and lows. His defense, I always found a little bit slow. I feel like Cam Reddish definitely better at defense than his shooting. I honestly think his offensive talent would have been more so taking it to the basket and being physical, but even then he found his inconsistencies when playing for the Lakers. For Vando, I mean, his defense, I genuinely think he's one of the best defenders on our team. I think he really is, and like he was supposed to fill that 3-and-D role. I was seeing how his offensive involvement was pretty much staying in the corner, but obviously Vando doesn't really knock down his threes. His development on the offense is usually pretty slow. We were seeing some pretty decent signs towards the end of the last season, but obviously injury problems got in the way. It was many months where we just did not see him at all. So I genuinely think that Max Christie is the closest we have to like actually having a 3-and-D person. Maybe Vandal if he develops his offensive back more too, but I genuinely think that we do not have 3-and-D guys, and Max Christie has like the highest potential in my opinion to get to that. We have a lot of 3-and-D like archetypes, but like it's not enough to really fulfill that role yet. So that's why I'm even more excited about how Max Christie will be in year 3. And sorry, like you bringing up Torian Prince just made me think about that.
Yeah, in clutch times, PR says we had a lot of fake 3-and-D wings. So definitely, I think that Max Christie is definitely a 3-and-D wing, and I'm very much excited to see how he does with given the opportunity, and hopefully JJ maximizes his these capabilities that he can provide for his team. So Shuttle Max, hopefully he develops. And at least another thing about that interview is he talked about how this team is running back and he likes the idea. And I'm not sure if I don't know if he's lying, but I'm kind of confused by that. Like, how do you guys feel about him liking the team running it back?
Man, run it back. I want to No, just playing. No, okay. Look, let's just think about this objectively. Sorry about that. I think it's a big division in Lakers fans. All right, this is the same team that people were like, oh, if we had a better coach, we would be top 3 or top 4 in the Western Conference. Like I know some other teams made some moves, I get it. But where did that confidence go? Not saying I don't want any moves to not be made, but we can make a case that as long as we can kind of stay a little bit healthier, we fix the rotations, which will give Max Christie more minutes. We got Dalton Connect coming in as a rookie. He's going to be great or good, I'll say at least. And we have a brand new coach, new system, new defense, new offense. I think baseline with this roster, I think fans can still be excited about the season. Of course, I still believe we need another center on this team, kind of a bigger bruiser guy, or just somebody who can bring value and be good enough to play next to Anthony Davis. I think those are 2 big options. But overall, I mean, let's just say if D'Lo does stay, yeah, I am mad about him. I'm the one who I know I said last week he should probably be shipped off. He's made too many mistakes. But at the same time, I can't act as if JJ Redick won't put him in the best spots to be successful. Now that is still up to D'Lo to make his shots, make the right plays, but in a JJ Redick system, a guy who understands how important it is to get that 3-point shot off and making the plays as easy as possible for your 3-point shooters. I can't help but think like having a 40+% 3-point shooter on your team could be valuable in a system like that. I mean, and plus his playmaking wasn't bad. Like he had moments where he's able to play make. He's able to run those pick and roll actions with Anthony Davis. He's got better playing off ball. And I know it sounds like I'm a D'Lo stan. There's plenty of accounts on Twitter for that. I'm not one of them. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's the end of the world if we don't make a massive move. I think baseline, we have to go get a center. Other than that, I'm comfortable, man. Like, if we want to run it back, I'm cool with it. I think I've been doing a lot of thinking recently and like what's available out there, what's it going to cost? Like, realistically, do I want to give up Rui Hachimura, Gabe Vincent, and 2 first-round picks for Grant? Me personally, no, I don't. I don't think it's worth it. Especially how Rui's been playing. in Olympic basketball. I know it's not the same thing, obviously, but he looks a little bit more comfortable. So I still think Rui is really young and, well, younger in basketball terms, and he still has, room to improve. And part of me wants to see like what he can do in a JJ Redick system as well. So for me, if we run it back, I won't even be mad because I trust our coaching staff this time around. And it definitely can't be worse than last time.
However, I will say I don't feel comfortable running it back with this team. I don't think that's a hot take, but Alan kind of nicely transitioned us into the theme of this offseason, right? Are we okay with running it back when it seems like that's what they're doing? Now, my co-host Earl has always been a very positive, optimistic voice with the Lakers, and I really appreciate him for that. I think we need that positive energy. But I will play negative advocate or devil's advocate here and say if the Lakers had made two moves this offseason, we would feel a lot more comfortable just being honest on the inside with going back into the season than we would right now. So us justifying the roster we have now is fine, and we may have to do it. But to me, until training camp and preseason starts, we don't have to take that approach because as positive as Earl was being, he even said, I still think we need to go get a center. Now, that should be a small thing, and in most off seasons, I think it would be. But they haven't gone and done that. And for the Lakers, with how they currently are, we still need to go find a team that's willing to trade us their center, and it's probably going to be a quality guy. It's not as easy as people think to go get Walker Kessler or Robert Williams or someone in that tier. And the Lakers haven't done it. So clearly they don't deserve our faith in that yet. But I do want to remind people that I've said this before, even on here. Rob Pelinka makes trades at the most random times. He always has since he took over as Lakers GM or executive vice president of basketball operations, whatever you want to call him. So we don't actually know when something's going to happen. But my main point is we probably shouldn't be comfortable with running it back at all. I think that's how a lot of us feel, despite trying to be positive, because we just watched this exact team lose back to back times to the Nuggets, 4-0 and then 4-1 in the first round. Now there are better teams than the Nuggets, which wasn't the case in 2023. There's the Timberwolves, there's the Thunder, keep getting better. There's the Celtics, obviously, where they are. The Knicks have gotten way better. The Sixers have gotten way better. So, as Lakers fans, we are used to winning and we want to win. And I don't think we should switch from that mindset. But if we're saying we are rooting for our team to be a contender and win it all, like I just said, which we should be, then this team isn't there. There's really no way that this team could win a championship next year. And if that is all of our ultimate goals, then we need to root for this team to make changes, even if they are two minor changes. Because as Earl said, you don't need a major move at this point. Of course, you don't need to go get a Drew Holiday level guy or a Lillard, like we were rumored a few years ago, level guy. But I think we would all agree that even if you add Jeremy Grant and Robert Williams or Walker Kessler and Colin Sexton or whatever you want to say, that could propel this team to actually have a chance against some of the top dogs in the West. So the current team we have now,
we cannot expect a championship until this team's roster is upgraded to championship level. And to kind of close that out, Earl and Alex, we've always said this, but if we had a better coach, things could have been a little different. And I think sure, but I would have had the Lakers with a good coach losing to the Nuggets in 7 this year, and last year probably 5 or 6 instead of 4. And even if we had beat the Nuggets this year, we would have lost to the Timberwolves in the next round with the roster. And then we added JJ Redick, who, yes, let's be positive and optimistic, but JJ Redick has not proven anything that he can get us more wins in a playoff series than another coach, even if that other coach was Darvin Ham. I still think he'll be better than Darvin Ham, but he's never coached, so it's going to take time. And the roster has to be way upgraded for him to have a chance, because the coaching staff we have is really good, but it's not getting us 3 more wins in a series or 4 more wins in a series. So we're still a little bit away from contending with this roster.
I agree with both points to a decent amount. It is kind of what I said in an earlier question just now, where the true judgment day is when JJ Redick's coaching tactics get put onto the court and we start counting up the 82 games. That is the actual judgment day, in my opinion. I do have some faith in the current roster. Obviously, I'd rather have some sort of movement. There's a couple of fundamental things we're missing with someone complementary to AD, or even just like a backup center being our biggest miss, especially because a lot of our technical problems can come into rebounding, come into just defensive assignments as well. So I think those are some of the biggest fundamental holes in our team that I think is a little bit more frustrating than if another team would have it, because we've been asking for a competent center complement or like an AD complement for the last like 3 seasons or so. After the championship, basically we've been begging for like a competent like center counterpart of some sorts, especially seeing how AD plays in Team USA, which we'll talk about later. It's even more just like, there's so much we can do with AD, helping build a little bit around AD as well, especially on the big man side of things. I do have a lot more faith in JJ Redick, like Earl is saying. I do think that even though the biggest testament is going to be how the team plays, I do think that there is still some really reassuring signs in how he's preparing for the job, how he's drawing up the tactics, how he's involving the players a lot differently. I think even the assistant coaching staff, from what I've been hearing, I like a lot of the picks, and I can see what different roles each of these assistant coaching picks will fulfill. And I think considering a lot of them, if not, I think all of them, have some sort of coaching experience at the G League level, with the person at the G League level literally winning Coach of the Year with the Stockton Kings. So making up for his lack of experience with more experience is definitely going to be helpful. But I still agree with Jake in the sense that the true testament isn't until we see practices, until we see the team on the court, how we see JJ Redick's like really strong preparation play out on the court. So I'm not fully comfortable running it back. I definitely am starting to warm up to it more, because I think it seems less likely that a big move is going to be made. I'm trying to get more comfortable with it, and I can see some points to that, but I don't think I'll be fully comfortable until maybe after training camp, even until the season starts, in my opinion.
But just to get back to the topic and like what Alan dropped in the chat, right? Like Alex, just for the sake of conversation, you just said like you're not fully comfortable running it back, but you're coming around to it because it seems more likely that we're not making a big move. And you're so right. But that, I believe that that's still kind of a problem with our thinking, with all of us fans, is like that we have to justify it because we didn't do anything, when really the question still remains, why did we not do anything? I want to add that the Suns and Bucks were in situations with the new aprons in CBA that were more difficult to navigate than the Lakers, and the Bucks still got Gary Trent Jr. on the minimum. as well as a couple other people who I'm blanking on now, someone from the Heat, someone else, whatever. Suns got Tyus Jones, as we know recently. They traded David Roddy. They opened up the money. They made it happen, whatever. So how did the Suns and Bucks get better in harder situations to navigate cap-wise, but the Lakers can't get one minimum level guy? I think that there's a weak kind of dialogue with the Lakers going back to the start of free agency. People have said, why did Rob give player options to Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes and Christian Wood? And it's so true. I'm not going to touch on that again. We've all seen all the stuff about that. It is very true, but let's just say he has done that. What are you going to do now this year? And you cannot tell me that you can't trade Cam Reddish or Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood, at least one of them individually, to one team and then try and go get Tyus Jones for around the minimum. That's not the case. So there's like the team, the front office, as we know, has actually been a lot more incompetent than people think, because they make excuses for the front office. Oh, we're in a bind because we gave Cam Reddish a player option. Well, if you were actually the GM of the Lakers and you had to get off of Cam Reddish's roster spot, you would call all 29 teams to find a way to do that, likely without giving up a pick, because I know there's a way on his salary. I've seen it every single season. People like that get traded for nothing, for cash or whatever. And even if you had to give up a second, we talked about this on the show once, coincidentally, recently. We got like 5 seconds for Thomas Bryant. If it takes one of those seconds to erase your mistake, for example, Jackson Hayes and Cam Reddish to the Nets, and we give them a second to help them rebuild, or we give them 2 seconds, it's probably worth it at that point to fix your mistakes. So clearly the front office has done nothing despite the ability to. And then again, to get back to the main topic before we move on, how are we comfortable running it back when I tell you the fact that LeBron and AD just had their most healthy season with the Lakers and we lost in the first round? And LeBron and AD, I watched the series. They get a lot of hate, LeBron and AD, for little things they do wrong. They were both fantastic to me, and truly outplayed Jokic and Murray combined, LeBron and AD, right? If they just did that and the rest of the roster couldn't help us get past the rest of the Nuggets roster, who aren't the best team, the Nuggets are probably the 4th best team in the NBA, then how can we be comfortable with this roster? I don't think we can, if the goal remains to win a championship or at least compete for a championship. But if your goal is to make the play-in, then you could be comfortable with this roster. And that's not the case for any of us. So we still need changes here in August, just like how it goes back to Rob trading THT and whatever else for Pat Bev on a random day in August. I'm just saying, don't count out an August trade from the Lakers, because deep down, even if they are incompetent, they still do know that work needs to be done. And the center that Earl brought up is probably the main concern, because even if you don't get Jeremy Grant, we are clearly lacking a center for Karl Towns, Gobert, Jokic, and Embiid if that comes to be, Porzingis if that comes to be. We are clearly lacking a presence to help out AD there.
I think that's very true, and I think you brought up a lot of good points too. I also do hope that you brought up a lot of good points. I think in truth, if the poll is, am I okay with it running it back? I think right now the answer is definitely no. Because even though if I have certain optimisms and certain like maybe there's a lot of unknowns, I think just right now the answer would have to be no. I also do hope that it doesn't end up being like a Frank Vogel situation where it's like if we do run it back and the roster imperfections really shine out, that JJ Redick ends up being kind of scapegoated for it. And I know that Frank Vogel also had a little bit of his imperfections in his coaching, but like seeing how the roster was built, after a championship that Frank Vogel himself won too, and then he got immediately fired, even though he had his imperfections for sure, I also know that like in that case, a lot of roster changes could have helped out a bit, or roster not changes, because a lot of players we offloaded ended up being big regrets from what I remember. So right now, I think my answer is no, even if I have certain optimisms of like what we can become. And if we do end up running it back, I really hope that this doesn't become, unless JJ Redick does something that's like actually so terrible, and like we go 0-82 or some like Detroit Pistons type of record. I really hope that JJ Redick doesn't get the biggest, like all 100% of the blame if our roster imperfections show, because I mean Jake isn't wrong. I mean that is stuff that could have been addressed in the summer. All the player options that was extremely polarizing, Wyatt Jackson, Hayes, Cam Reddish, all of them put us in an even more difficult spot than it should have been. But there were still ways to like kind of offload that. It was like their responsibility kind of offload on those mistakes as well. Even Tyus Jones only being 3.3 million, I like for some reason all the reports I was seeing, it made it seem like he was asking for more, that he wanted like a bigger demand or something like that from all the reports. And then I see the Suns got him for 3 million. I'm just like, what is going on? Did the Lakers front office probably just do something wrong, and like the other front offices trying to bid for Tyus Jones do something wrong? Because like all the reports I've been seeing show that Tyus Jones wanted a bigger role, and then he ended up on a 1 year for 3.3 million. So I think even if I do have like my optimisms and like have some sort of faith in like our current team, because like as a fan, of course I do, Jake is definitely not wrong in the sense that like it is not the most comfortable situation to be running it back, especially seeing how the summer turned out. When people debate like, did we have the worst offseason like out of all the teams? Like there's a very strong case for yes this year. There's a reason why that's being kind of talked about.
I just want to touch on like 2 points quickly. I know we're going back and forth here. Oh, Alan, we'll get back to you with all the topics in a second. You made a really good point about Tyus, but I do want to say the Suns could offer him something. You said that Tyus wanted a bigger role. Who's the only team that's technically a contender that could offer Tyus Jones a starting point guard role? The Suns. Because even if the Lakers were in that category, I until you trade D'Lo, right, you can't really just be like, hey, Tyus, you're the starting point guard, and D'Lo's just like over there making $20 million. So the Lakers couldn't offer that. But also with the coaching stuff real fast, JJ Redick will not be fired in his contract. I'm sorry for forgetting. I think his contract was like 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. One of you guys has to remind me. I forgot. He will not be fired in his contract unless something crazy happens, because the Lakers now know that they've had a reputation for firing coaches when things go wrong very quickly. And the Frank Vogel thing was the biggest mistake of all. I think I've told some of you guys, I've had the opportunity to talk to Frank Vogel about basketball, like in person, one-on-one. And I trust that guy as a basketball coach. He may have had slight faults, but he was so unfairly blamed for the worst roster I've seen the Lakers have since the like pre-LeBron days, but also probably pre-Lonzo Kuzma, Josh Hart days, like all the way back then. The worst roster, like Carmelo Anthony, who I adore, could not play any defense at that point. He was letting people walk by him. Russell Westbrook, obviously, as we know, was a mess. All the other old guys were a mess, right? You had like Darren Collison stepping in or whatever. You had DJ Augustine. You had Isaiah Thomas like twice, like coming back to the Lakers like that. It was a mess. But Darvin Ham was rightfully fired, and I think there's a distinction there that the media kind of got wrong. Like, oh, the Lakers made Darvin Ham the scapegoat. No, Darvin Ham was the worst coach that I've seen coach in the NBA. That he made mistakes that were so clear that any casual fan could say, what is the coach doing? And then back it up with evidence, game in and game out. He was not scapegoated, and Darvin Ham got 2 chances at it with 1.5 years of that, both playoff runs. He had a great roster. Not a championship roster, let's be clear, but a great roster, right? Like we made the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago. But JJ, in my opinion, will not be fired at all. And that was part of the JJ Redick experiences. If you sign JJ and he's a first-time head coach, you better give him years of chance before you fire him. Because the Lakers' reputation, no one is going to come coach the Lakers next year if JJ Redick gets fired. Who would want to go coach the Lakers after they fired another coach? It's already been too many coaches since Phil Jackson. So we are locked in with JJ Redick, and he will get better year after year. But again, just on the topic, he is not enough to make us a contender or make us comfortable with this roster, at least yet.
Yeah, and just sort of this quote by Joe Bull from yesterday during his YouTube, and he said that as things stand, the Lakers are preaching patience that the right trade will eventually materialize, while betting that healthier versions of Jared Vanderbilt and Gabe Vincent, the addition of Dalton Knecht, and the promotion of Christie into rotation will shore up the group's perimeter defense, athleticism, and shooting. So, at least per him and his sources, and of course his opinion, possibly, that the Lakers are just banking on their own team. And of course, for me, I'm not very much okay with that. Like I said, I do have some optimism, as I was saying to Earl, but for being real, Rob Pelinka has not done a good job, and he should have improved by the margins. Even if he couldn't land that significant trade, he should have improved by the margins, and he didn't do that a lot in free agency. He did that sort of NBA draft wise and getting the best players that he could and hoping that some players are healthy, but realistically, he done a poor job.
Yeah, I agree. And like it definitely is a little bit concerning. Like I know I try to be the most optimistic guy here, but I still do have my worries and concerns, of course. Like Rob Pelinka, he did a good job drafting, like you said. I mean, to be fair, can we really credit Rob Pelinka or just other GMs kind of dropping the bag on Dalton Knecht respectfully? So yeah, I feel like we definitely did good in the draft. We got Bronny, we got Dalton Knecht, both really great upside guys. Dalton Knecht really right now he can help contribute. Bronny, I feel like in the future, with a year in the G League, I think he's going to be a good NBA player. He already showed signs of that. But everything else, he really hasn't done anything. Not a trade, not a trade. Like Jake said, you could literally trade a player for cash nowadays. Like we've seen these moves happen in the last couple weeks. Oh, so and so traded for cash considerations and then make a roster spot and they sign a free agent. Rob hasn't made any moves. Like, and by my understanding, I think Rob gave up after he didn't get Klay Thompson. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the only time we actually heard about Rob offering a deal. All the other stuff, the Wendell Carter Jr. I mean, we just heard he was interested, which only goes so far, Rob. I mean, you can be interested in something, but if you don't pursue it or try to do anything with it, it's just you're just sitting there window shopping at that point. So I don't know, man. I just feel like Rob is not being as aggressive as he should be, even if it's a smaller deal. Like, surely the Rob Pelinka can make one trade, one deal happen. How long has it been? What, a month, maybe more than that. I don't know. I've lost track of time completely since free agency started. But there's no excuse for him to not have done anything. So while I do want to be optimistic and I do believe that, yes, we will still compete this year. I do truly believe that with LeBron James and AD. Some slight adjustments to our system can definitely go a long way. But the true change to winning a championship, I feel like, is at least making some type of move. Like minimum for me is get a center. Like if you go out there and get a center that can play with Anthony Davis and really just be a true backup behind him if you don't want to start him with AD. I think that's huge. I think Wendell Carter, I don't think it should cost that much. I might be mistaken about that. I think it's obtainable for him to manage to get that deal done. So if he can do something like that, I know he always talks about the new CBA, all this stuff, the rules and all this. But dude, you seen what the Suns just did. The Suns they convinced Tyus Jones. They called him, talked to him, convinced him to take a smaller contract. This is a guy we thought was going to be a full MLE guy, like going into the summer. The Suns got him on the phone. Hey, we got a starting job for you. We think it'll be a perfect fit. next to KD, Booker, Bill. I think you're the point guard. You're the big piece we were missing. Boom, sign him for $3.3 million. Like, he took a huge pay cut off of a chance to compete and win. You can't offer that to anybody in the league. You can't call around, like Jake said, and trade players like Cam Reddish or anything like that for just to open up roster spots so you can make those type of moves. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like Rob, while I do believe we can still compete, obviously with LeBron and AD, like I said, I can't excuse that Rob hasn't done as much as he could right now in like this current state of the Lakers.
And just to add to that, like with the Tyus thing, first of all, the Suns are not going to be a great team. I'm not trying to put them down. There's a glaring problem of Tyus Jones, Booker, Beal, Durant, Nurkic. I think they still have their starting five. Where the hell is the defense? Because I mean, holy, if they play the Timberwolves again, it's 4-0 again. Because the Timberwolves have the defense, but the thing the Timberwolves are best at is they have the size and length, and they can all score. That team, the Suns team, can guard no one. I'm not saying that they have a perfect team, but I will say that their GM and ownership is actually a little bit better than the Lakers, besides for the Bradley Beal trade, to be fair, because that makes no sense. But what they did that I wanted to mention with the Tyus thing was, again, right before they had David Roddy, who honestly, like, I don't even really think they should have traded, although Tyus is definitely better than David Roddy, so I get it. They traded David Roddy, who I forgot what he was making. I think it was more than minimum, right? It could have been like 4 or 5. They traded him to the Hawks for EJ Liddell, and that opened up all the space, like I said, to get Tyus. So if that's the case, why can't Cam Reddish be traded to the Nets for someone? For Dayron Sharp or whatever you want to, like, literally anyone, right? It's a lazy excuse that you can't trade Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, who, by the way, I think some teams would be interested in Jackson Hayes. I'm not even going to lie. Like, as a backup center, they would certainly be interested in Christian Wood and give him a chance to be a backup big as well. So it's a very lazy excuse that you didn't trade them. But I'll add real fast before Alex. Earl made a really good point that you have to understand about the Lakers front office, as I've come to understand, being chronically online and being watching every Lakers game the last years, especially since Rob got hired. You have to understand, like, they will give up. They will literally just stop. And we've seen 3 trade deadlines, I believe, where they said, the reporters came out, Dave McMenamin and Woj, and they'll be like, Lakers are standing pat at this trade deadline. They'll wait for the buyout market. So they gave up, right? They just stopped a day short of the trade deadline when they had a whole day to work through deals, for example. And this summer, it's very obvious that when the Lakers didn't get Clay and Jonas Valanciunas, who I believe was probably high on their list too, in that Clay range, with LeBron taking a pay cut, that they just gave up. Like, they literally stopped, and we didn't hear from them again, because a good way to even think about it is the Lakers were so connected to Clay. They literally, like, pitched Clay. They were so connected to Valanciunas and then a few other guys around that time, at least for the minimum. And they after that, we didn't hear a single report about the Lakers even being interested in someone besides Wendell Carter Jr., which we have no evidence that Rob Pelinka got on the phone with the Magic GM. It's possible, but we have no evidence. So that means that when the Lakers realized they couldn't get Clay and Valanciunas, they just stopped doing their job, the front office, for the whole time. And I remember JJ Redick said in his opening press conference, I'm going to go help out at Vegas Summer League, but I can't go to California Classic because free agency is going to be going on. for the first few days. Well, what did you do? Because that Max Christie deal could have been negotiated for 2 weeks with the way the NBA works now, where you can negotiate with your own free agents. They could have had that Max Christie deal done from the end of the season. They probably did, and it just wasn't announced till later. So what were they doing when they were sitting in that room during free agency? Like if you really think about it, and the front office was out there at the practice facility in their office for free agency with the whiteboard of names, that means that they went in at least for the first 3, 4, 5 days and did nothing and then just left and went home. And then after that, we haven't heard anything. So they've clearly done nothing. So what were you guys doing the whole time? And I don't think it'll happen because of his ties to the team, but I do think Rob Pelinka, not to be too negative, deserves to be fired more than almost every person in the NBA in terms of coaches and GMs because he hasn't really done anything after that 2020 season. I like the 2021 roster, but you can make arguments that you should have kept more of the 2020 roster and ran that back. And Montrezl Harrell was out of the league a year after we had him. Yeah, and that was our big guy for our signing for 2021. So what have you done in the last 4 years? It's clear incompetence. And it's hard because as fans, we always think like we're going to do better. But I genuinely believe in this case that a lot of fans could do better. If you put us in the front office, something at least would get done to improve this team before next season.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of really great points. Before I say my point real quick, this will be my last question because I do have to hop off around 12. Stay and support these other three, Jake, Allen, Earl. They're amazing, and they have a lot of great talk on Lakers basketball to come up next. So stay and support them. Join our playback if you're on Jake's Twitter or on our YouTube. We love y'all. Y'all are amazing. Join the playback to really be part of the conversation. But I guess it's just really interesting what you said. It is true that like the Suns definitely needed a true point guard, which explains how Tyus Jones fit into the roster. I still think that, like you said, there's going to be some problems with how discombobulated the Suns were during the last summer offseason with the Beal situation, where although like Beal's a nice player, like where does he fit? Because if Tyus Jones is going to be like that true point guard, either Booker or Beal, most likely Beal's going to get pushed out altogether, or Booker is going to be forced to play the three. And like even though he's capable, that's not where he is best. So I think that's like the only thing, and that has less to do with Tyus Jones and more so to do with the fact that the Suns just messed up how they did the offseason last year and have to remedy that for a very, very long time. It's just interesting that like it kind of does worry me. You're right. It's almost like a loser mentality that like the front office or like certain people on the Lakers have. It kind of happened. We saw it in the winter. They didn't really do anything huge in the winter. They kind of waited till the buyout market, like Jake said, and then we ended up with Spencer Dinwiddie. And I always say that I'd rather have no change than like a bad change. So that's kind of all I'll say about Spencer Dinwiddie from the buyout market. And it is true that like it's extremely frustrating how they just kind of give up. I think even in the reports, I kind of tied this back a lot, but like again, when Rob Pelinka, there are reports about how he like barely negotiates. He puts a deal down, and then like there's very little negotiation that goes on after. Again, like feel free to verify how true or false that is, but those are the multiple reports I've been seeing. Just like I think the front office, especially like Rob Pelinka, someone who's like the general manager who has the responsibility of doing the best you can in building the roster. Like everyone that has a job should have the responsibility of doing their best at their job. And part of Rob Pelinka's job is building the best franchise, and part of that is on building a team. And it's been a lot of disappointments throughout the last couple of seasons for sure. Really great draft. Love the Dalton Connect pick, definitely steal of the year. And Bronny James is developing really well. Consistent defense, slowly getting more involved in the offense. Very nice. But besides that, there's a lot of really big holes in our roster that isn't just like sudden gaps. Like it's been stuff that we've been seeing through the last 2, 3, even 4 head coaches that we've been through as well. So it's almost like I do agree with Jake. It is pretty frustrating seeing almost this loser mentality that like the Lakers front office sometimes exhibits. I know it's like a little harsh to say, but to give up on the franchise or like the team as quickly as that is definitely not the right answer. And it is 12, so I'm gonna head off. This was a great show. Again, stay for the other three. I always love their commentary. Earl said he has a hot take. I'll try to be in the chat to hear that myself. So yeah, best of luck with the show. And
And again, just to fill in for, thank you, Alex, for that. I thought Alex had some amazing points today, and had a good show. Again, just to jump in, like on the draft that Earl and Alex both mentioned, Rob Pelinka actually didn't have a good draft at all, in my opinion. I do think the Lakers came out of the draft well, but if you really think about it, we had a guy who was projected to go like 6 through 10 fall in our lap. We had to make that pick, and he did. That is the minimum level of competence, honestly, that I expect. And I'm happy that it happened. And then in the second round, you didn't. Obviously, we don't want to bring in multiple second rounders. The roster's full. I understand that. But all you did was take your franchise player's son. Like, let's be honest, at the end of the day, like, Bronny will be a decent NBA player. I think I'm actually higher on Bronny than most. I think after a year or two in the G League, he could be a solid bench player in the NBA. But you didn't have a good draft because you didn't do anything. Rich Paul forced Bronny's way to the Lakers, and then you got a guy who wasn't even supposed to be there. If Dalton Connect was off the board, what would the Lakers have done? I know we wanted Khalil Ware. I'll tell you that. He was off the board a few picks before to the Heat. So Rob Pelinka himself did not have a good draft. The way it worked out was a it was a win for the Lakers for sure. And I think Dalton will be super important this year. But he didn't do anything in the draft like to convince me that he had a good draft as a GM. And frankly, like when Rob's been able to make the decisions, it hasn't worked out because Jalen Hood-Schifino was reportedly, this was multiple reports that the scouting department wanted other guys a lot more, including Cam Whitmore was one of them after he fell, and Rob overruled them because, as I've told you guys, Rob went to my school. He went to Michigan. He's a Big Ten guy, and he went to the Big Ten tournament and saw Jalen Hood-Schifino play one time and picked Jalen Hood-Schifino. So when Rob's had the calls for the draft, it actually hasn't worked out. Same with Mo Wagner. Those are two Rob picks. But when the scouting department and Jesse Buss has their pick, I do feel like it normally works out pretty well. So yeah, he didn't even have a good draft, you could say, but because of that draft, because he felt like he got Connect on a steal, which he did, and because he missed out on Clay and Jonas, like I said, he then decided to stop and do nothing the whole offseason. So it was a horrible offseason for Rob, in my opinion.
Yeah, at least now moving forward, of course, as Alex mentioned, we do appreciate everyone listening, and also we do appreciate some interaction as well. Feel free to drop any questions, hot takes, or any opinions about the Lakers, and we'll do our best to get to them. It doesn't matter what take you believe, or where it be wrong, where it be right. We always talk about it because it's your hot take, it's your questions, and like I said, we do our best to get to them throughout this podcast. Moving forward to Team USA basketball, and mostly these Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Right now they are 2-0, and Anthony Davis did start this game versus South Sudan, and of course Joel Embiid did not play at all. I believe it was 0 minutes. Didn't even get on the court. Was on the bench versus this South Sudan game. Anthony Davis was a starting center. He got 8 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists at 1 steal and 2 blocks, while LeBron James got 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists, as well as 1 steal. So, at least for both of you guys, what are your thoughts on LeBron James and Anthony Davis's performances in these past 2 games, and as well as Anthony Davis sort of, you could say, getting that surprise start over Joel Embiid? Well, for me, not surprised, but I'd imagine some people could be shocked by seeing the automatic switch to Anthony Davis from Steve Kerr.
Yeah, I think First of all, shout out to LeBron and AD. It was good to see them start again together since the good old Lakers regular season days. But yeah, it just makes sense. I think, like you said, it was a looming decision. I think especially versus that South Sudan team, you need a lot of size and activity on defensive end. And I think Joel Embiid, I said Embiid, Joel Embiid right now has not brought either of those things kind of to Olympic basketball. His offensive game, he's kind of struggled to be consistent. Defense, he's been absolutely eaten alive. I mean, game before, Jokic was having his way pretty much every single possession. He was getting easy buckets. So I think Coach Kerr understands that sometimes you need a different look depending on the matchups. And it just made sense, man. I could argue every game Anthony Davis should start, just in my opinion. I think that's just the truth. I think on both ends, AD has just been a better player in FIBA so far, or Olympic basketball, I should say, so far. And I did see the new lineups. Joel Embiid is back in the starting line for the next game, which is it's cool, but I think for impact, I think AD and LeBron James and Kevin Durant, I'll throw in there, have been the three most impactful players throughout this whole entire series so far as USA basketball. All three of those guys bring in some type of special utility. LeBron James, I mean, it's just pretty much all around scoring, playmaking, and just he just knows how to control the pace of a game. He knows when he has to turn on the aggressiveness with a team full of number one options. He knows when he has to take the ball and go score. And he also knows when he has to go and get other guys involved. Like, I think he plays so well, which makes me really upset because I wanted this guy a while ago. He plays so well with Drew Holiday. Like, their off ball connection is so good. Like, he always finds them open. Drew, which we talk about a lot during our seasons. He's a guy who actually will cut to the basket when it's open. He won't just be there sitting stagnant. Notice how he gets like a lot of easy buckets that way because nobody really expects it. But yeah, he just knows when to play and like what plays to make for this team. So shout out to Bron, shout out to AD. He's been a defensive monster. Didn't have like the highest offensive scoring game, but that's okay. I mean, it's gonna be on and off as far as like double digit scoring for Team USA with the amount of stars you have on the team. So proud of both of those guys. Continue to do good for our Lakers showcase and excited to see what happens next game.
Yeah, and I think as a Lakers fan, like relating it to that, it's a little bit discouraging with Team USA solely because LeBron and AD have been playing at. Oh wait, can you guys see me? What just happened? LeBron and LeBron and AD have been playing at this level, and then you don't see any moves around them to help the Lakers. Obviously, we could say that, but with Team USA, like specifically, it's been so fun to watch those guys. Kevin Durant, certainly, since he got back to, even to me, I still believe Tyrese Halliburton is very underrated when he gets in. I feel like he contributes when he's in the game. Anthony Edwards, who I've said like he's my favorite player in the NBA who isn't on the Lakers. He hasn't really found his role because he's been a little inconsistent. Same with Tatum. But I think with Tatum not playing that game prior and then Embiid not playing this game, I do think it's matchup dependent for Steve Kerr. You can definitely see that in the lineups and rotations. And I do think Embiid should be playing in general. My Lakers bias tells me that Anthony Davis should be starting, and that's been backed up by his play on the court, which has been better than Embiid, at least for FIBA. But I will say Embiid with higher usage than AD has been the better player in the NBA the last few seasons when healthy. Both of them have injury concerns, but even though I've been an Embiid hater at times on Twitter, I do think he's still one of the best players in the world. I think he should be playing. I don't really see why he had to not play at all because you could have then just had Bam next to him coming off the bench, like both of them with size. But perhaps, like, even though to me, South Sudan is a really big team, with Bam could guard a guy like JT Thor who was playing like the four. He doesn't play the five. I guess Steve Kerr wanted to give Embiid a break or just matchup dependent wise. Um, but AD at this level is just a monster, and he's reminding a lot of people why he's a top few player in the world. I think sometimes like the Lakers obviously we all know get a lot of hate, and a lot of people don't want to admit like a Laker is good. And I've noticed like the switch on the discussion of Anthony Davis to the point where like even this morning I saw Colin Cowherd take about AD, kind of having him like on top of the world. And that was something that like Cowherd has not been high on AD in the past. He really switched up. And I think it's just because he sees him on Team USA now doing this. And when he's on the Lakers, like we're playing a regular season or playoff game, AD is still as good as he is now, if not better. But people view it with like Lakers goggles of like, yeah, like let's put down AD. AD's gotten just so much disrespect the last few years. He got a lot more respect this year, actually, compared to the past. But since he got to the Lakers, he's gotten a lot of disrespect after 2020, and including like the injuries he had in 2021, which I believe is totally unfair. But yeah, man, like at the end of the day, it's a little discouraging to see the level that Bron and AD could still be at. And then how like the Lakers haven't really put a team around them for a few years now, because at the end of the day, like AD and LeBron cannot win a championship on their own. They give you a chance, but basketball is a team game. It's part of what we love about it. And Jokic and Jamal Murray, for example, when they won, or you could even say Tatum and Brown this year, they can't do that without Drew Holiday and Porzingis and Derek White or Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon playing at that level, even Peyton Watson at times, Christian Brown at times off the bench. So KCP obviously for the Nuggets too. So those are real basketball teams built from 1 through 7 or 1 through 8 guys who you're going to play in a playoff game. And the Lakers have not had that. And even if Rui Hachimura and Vanderbilt and Reeves can count as those guys, you can't always trust Russell then, who would be what was it, the sixth guy that I just mentioned. And then off the bench, you had Torian Prince, who was actually pretty decent for us in the playoffs this year, I thought. But besides for him off the bench, there was no one. And you didn't really give yourself a lot of options when a lot of those guys aren't two-way players, as mentioned earlier on this show. So they need to find a way to put guys around Brown and AD who could really help, even if it's a Bruce Brown level guy, for example. Bruce Brown may be able to take a lot of that burden off. He's not one of the top players in the NBA, but we saw how much the Nuggets needed him to win a championship. And that's a guy who, like, that level of guy is still very attainable for the Lakers. So I'm definitely looking for us to at least get some of those types of guys who can help out on both sides of the ball when we go back to the playoffs. But in terms of just like regular season with us, you can't rely on the level we're talking about from Bron and AD and Team USA, because there's far more games, as we know, in the regular season. There's 82, and they're probably not going to be healthy the whole time. So you need guys who can help carry us through the regular season. And as much as sometimes I talk down on this guy for the playoffs, D'Angelo Russell is a guy who I believe would be very important for the regular season, along with Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, I think Team USA is doing very much good right now. Anthony Davis, like I said, is a clear starter, or you say he's a clear favorite over Joel Embiid, in my opinion, just because we talk about all the time that Steve Kerr's offense is very much a offense that involves a ton of ball movement, and when it comes to their center positions, at least you could say forward position, the Draymond Greens, was it the Kevin Looney types? They are guys who, like I said, who very much set screens, give the ball to their guards, and allow their perimeter guys to set the offense, while they can provide these assists, points, and a ton of rebounds. So that's Anthony Davis, that's Bam Adebayo, and let's see who's the center in 2020. Besides Bam, it was Draymond was on the team. They had I'm trying to find who was like the other guy. Jaren Jackson. Was it like a year or 2 years ago? And he was a smaller center who, of course, can't score, but was mostly a hustle / rebounding guy who also very much did set screens for the guards on this Steve Kerr offense. So Joel Embiid is mostly a traditional post guy, and I just think that, like I say, he doesn't fit into Steve Kerr's offense. I think Steve Kerr knows how to set up his big man when it comes to the post, but primarily the post isn't a main factor within Steve Kerr's offense, in my opinion. And sometimes players can take over in the post, but primarily most of their baskets are going to come from the 3 point line, or like I said, lobs or alley oops, as we've seen so far from um, this Team USA attacking the paint. You could say so. It's just Joel Embiid is a great player and definitely can be a player who can be effective maybe in the playoff series, or as you say, the tournament towards the gold medal. But as of right now, he isn't fitting well, and Bam and Anthony Davis are outplaying him, in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think maybe later on in the tournament, Joel Embiid can be more of a factor, but right now, I think you got to get the nod to AD for his work on both ends.
Yeah, and I agree with you as well. I think Bam and AD have been so good. For me, as someone who doesn't watch all the Heat games, I guess you can see more now how underrated Bam is in some NBA circles just because of his versatility on offense and defense. And it seems like he's figured out how to shoot the three ball too. He's been pretty consistent actually when he takes them with Team USA. So I would just shout out him. Shout out Drew Holiday, as you guys mentioned before, too. One thing I really like about Drew Holiday that I still think is underrated is he almost has like a post player feel for the game, because at times, like, he will get in that free throw line extended area and he's able to make the right pass like every time, or get the right shot every time, almost like Embiid should be able to in the area he normally hangs out by the free throw line. But Drew Holiday has the guard skills to go with it. I'm sure that helps with like making the pass. Drew, as a basketball player, is never going to put up crazy stats again. He had in the past with the Pelicans at times. Um, but he's one of the most underrated overall basketball players still to this day, in my opinion. I mean, he's known for being underrated, so in a sense he's not underrated, but just as a basketball player, like with the feel for the game, he's the type of guy like you would think LeBron James would really really want to play with. And then just like finally, random note, but shout out to Gordon Hayward, who retired today. I saw he was someone who was a very underrated player, also, especially when he was on the Jazz. I think he would have been great for the Celtics when they got him if he didn't sustain like a brutal injury in that first game. I forgot if it was ACL or maybe it was like broken foot or something with his leg. But if he didn't have that injury, I think he would have been great. Obviously, his career went downhill fast in Charlotte after a few years. The Thunder thing didn't really work out, but Gordon Hayward as a Jazz player was one of the most fun players to watch. So shout out to Gordon Hayward for a good career.
Yeah, and now going to see a quick game/list. Normally, we do have a top 5 ranking, and feel free to join us in the comments or join us down in the chat as we rank our top 5 Lakers to not only play for, like I said, the Lakers, but also Team USA. So, like I said, I'll start off and give us like examples, but my list right now is number 1, Kobe Bryant, number 2, LeBron James, number 3, Magic Johnson. Number 4, I gotta look at my list again. Carmelo Anthony. Of course, he did wear a Laker jersey and had a phenomenal Team USA, or you could say Olympic career. And 5, there was a ton of names who can't, are not only random, but they did wear Laker jerseys. But I kind of went with at least a legend. I'll go with Jerry West, and that may sound random, but least per basketball reference, he was on the 1960 USA basketball team that I just did research. They won the gold medal. So I'm going to count Jerry West as my 5th best Laker/Team USA player to ever play.
That's a solid list. All right. I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of some of those names. I think number one, I'm going to go with. Oh, I think you know what? I'm gonna switch it up. Number one, I'm gonna go with Melo. I feel like since Kevin Durant had his emergence as like the leading scorer in Olympic history, I think Melo is kind of not getting forgotten, but people are forgetting what he did for the Olympic teams, and that's pretty much his version of winning championships. That was Carmelo Anthony. So I'll give Carmelo one. Number two, I'm going with Kobe Bryant. Obviously, we know about the Redeem Team and all those different crazy stories about how he kind of took over not only the training camps but just his play on the court. I mean, we all know the Pau Gasol story as well, which was really crazy to watch. Number three, I'm going Bron. I think it's obviously close. Bron, he's just got the longevity. He could be 1 through 3 on this list as well. So I'm going three for LeBron. Four. Hey, who do I go for?
At least a couple other, of course, like there's Magic. There's also Dwight Howard.
Oh, I'm tripping. Yeah, okay.
There, Russell Westbrook. Do you want to mention?
Mm,
And then Shaq did also play there, and also Carlos Boozer, former Laker as well. Shout out to him.
I'm gonna go for Magic. Some people might hate me for a snub, but I'm gonna rock my list. I'm gonna wear my list with pride. So four, we're gonna go Magic, and five, I'm gonna give. We talked about big fellas. I'm gonna give some love to Dwight Howard, man. Dwight Howard, dominant big. We talk about not a lot of things being run in the post for players. Dwight Howard is definitely an exception to that list. You give him the ball, one dribble, going up with the dunk. So I'm gonna go Dwight Howard to round out my list. Add another big in there.
I think for me, the modern era of Team USA basketball is probably like they probably owe a lot of thanks to Coach K, obviously coming in, but also Kobe, just because Kobe was the leader of 2008 and 2012, in my opinion, where he was able to kind of change the culture and get us back to winning. I'm going to have Kobe number one. Number two, I'm going to have LeBron because of the longevity. I think LeBron is the superior USA player to Melo because LeBron has now played in 2020. I do believe we're going to get the gold. I think that puts him above a guy like Melo. I think Kevin Durant is right up there with LeBron too. But LeBron is very important for Team USA. My knock against him would be because of like other circumstances, he didn't play in 2016 and 2020. It was actually 2021. I think they actually went. Because of that, I don't have LeBron number one, but I'll have him number two. Number three, Carmelo. He was a bucket. I don't know if he was at one point the all-time leading scorer for the Olympics before Kevin Durant, but he definitely was getting up a ton of shots on the Olympic teams, and he was barely missing when he was there. I think he was really important. I have a bias, obviously, to the newer players I've watched with those three, I watched all of them on Team USA. But I will say Magic four. I still think Magic was very important with him. I know he was older in his career by the time it was like the Dream Team in '92. I don't know if he played '96. I don't think so because he was kind of like, yeah, he was like retired by then and then like came back for one more year. But yeah, I'm gonna have Magic for he's obviously probably the second most important player dash leader on the Dream Team in my opinion after Michael Jordan. And then number five, I'm gonna have Jerry West. I didn't get I don't remember watching Dwight as much as I should. I definitely respect that pick as well. I definitely didn't watch Jerry West, but I've heard the stories about Jerry West for the Olympics. And I think for basketball in general, like Earl and I had even made a video ranking the top 10 greatest Lakers ever. Jerry was very high for me because of what he's done for the Lakers, but you could use a lot of the same arguments with what Jerry has done for basketball in general and certainly Team USA. So I'm going to have him number five.
Yeah, a couple shout outs to Lamar Odom. I haven't, although he was part of that losing, you say, or his bronze medal or 04 team. He did these, I believe, in the FIBA tournament. Like, was it like 2011 or like 2012? I don't know. It was 2010/2011, and he won that gold medal with with that FIBA team, helping USA qualify. And if you go back to that 2010 2011 team, they were actually pretty good. They had like a young Durant, they had a young Westbrook, young etc. players. So shout out to Lamar Odom, who's a part of that FIBA winning gold medal team, I believe. So shout out to him. But yeah, before we go to our hot takes to end the podcast, is there any more topics for both Jake and Earl?
I'll just say hopefully next week Rob decides to get off the couch and give us something to be excited about.
Yeah, I'm with you, Earl. I hope we get something, but if we don't, I don't think we have any other topics because I'm really happy with like what we covered and talked about. But I definitely am excited to continue growing on Playback again, and also just as it gets closer this season, I know we're gonna have more and more Lakers fans jumping back online and jumping in here with our new Playback streams with all this stuff with my Twitter, getting excited for the season again. So it's Rob's job, as Earl kind of just said, to get us a little bit more excited for the season. But at the end of the day, it's like we all love watching the Lakers. All of us are diehards. Even the preseason matters to some degree for us, just for entertainment and watching it, and even all the stuff we hear from training camp. So I'm excited for all of that, which is coming up sooner than I guess we realize, probably in about a month from now with training camp. So hopefully August blesses us with some good news, and then we go right over into September with training camp.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think hopefully, like you said, Rob Palinka can kind of lock in and do what he has to do to get fans back excited. And yeah, make sure you guys follow up on Playback. We have some really fun stuff here. If y'all want to talk to us directly, easier for us to see it right in this chat right here. We can answer questions. There's polls throughout the thing, live conversation. So make sure you guys um come over here so you can be active in our conversation as well.
And there's not a lot of Laker chat rooms that I've seen on here. I know Legend of Winning Low has a big room here. I know there's a huge Warriors chat room on here that I think is called Chasing Wins. But just in general, like we want to be your go-to people on Playback for the Lakers, especially when the season starts, and all of us can jump on here for at least some of the games and watch them together live, as Playback lets you like stream from the NBA app and the games going on. We're going to be watching live, discussing in the chat, and we would love to have everyone, especially if you're coming over from Twitter during the game, come over here, watch the game, talk to us in here.
Definitely. Now moving to our hot takes to end a podcast. But Jake and Earl, what is your hot take for this week? And also everyone in chat, feel free to drop your hot takes or questions down below.
Yeah, I have two hot takes. I've been thinking about this for a while. Hot take number one, I think that Max Christie will be most improved player. I think he's gonna get a good amount of minutes. He's gonna have a solid not only just minutes, but he'll have a good role on this team. I think his offensive production is gonna increase a lot. It's really not hard for him to improve considering like the amount of minutes he got before. I think once JJ Redick gets him into that consistent role, his points per game, rebounds, assists, all those things will just naturally increase. So I definitely could see him having what's it called? Most improved player. Second hot take I have is I was looking at Anthony Davis numbers. Now this is probably more of a hotter take, but we always talk about how we would love for Anthony Davis to be an MVP type player. So in order to do that, I feel like he just naturally has to increase his points per game once again. So my hot take is going into this season that Anthony Davis will jump from 25 points a game all the way up to 29.5. I think he's going to be just under 30. I think he's going to have one of his best offensive seasons we've seen in a long time since the Pelican days. And I think if JJ Redick means what he says about Anthony Davis kind of being a hub on offense and defense, being the guy who kind of generates some of that offense, then I think it'll be easier for him, to get good looks throughout these course of the games. And if everybody else is kind of hitting their shots, guys like D'Lo, assuming he's still on the team, Austin Reeves, Braun, I think that creates more opportunities for Anthony Davis to get the ball, not really be double teamed in that post positioning because you can't. And he'll be able to be more aggressive. So those are my two hot takes going into this week.
Yeah, I think with AD, I definitely not a hot take, but I just hope he gets his three ball back even more. And I also hope that when they refer to using him as a hub, he's more in that area that I just mentioned, like Drew Holiday is in, of like the free throw line extended, has the ball in his hands, and people are able to either cut or shoot the ball around him. I think hopefully we could see AD's assists go up in that sense. I definitely hope we put a center next to him. On the court, hot take, I would say right now, I'm kind of feeling Dalton Connect Rookie of the Year as like a six man. I do believe it is a weaker rookie class in the sense of like who's going to have opportunities to win Rookie of the Year. It was a strong one this year where a guy like Chet couldn't even get into the conversation by the end because of Wembanyama. But like those are two guys, for example, if they were both rookies this year, Connect would have no chance. But when I look at the 1 and 2 picks of this draft with Zachary Risache and Alex Sarr, I believe both of them will take time. And I think Connect can kind of sneaky win the Rookie of the Year. But the other guys I would look at for it, I think Reed Shepard is going to give a lot of competition as the third pick. If he has a sizable role with the Rockets, I think Reed could win Rookie of the Year. I also think Khalil Ware could still be a sneaky Rookie of the Year because I don't think the Heat are going to like they're not worried that he's a rookie and they'll play him less because of that. Like if anything, they put Hawkes in a position as a rookie that was fairly like irregular for a rookie to be playing that much, especially in the playoffs. So Khalil wears an option, but my hot take will be that Dalton Connect wins Rookie of the Year, at least for now. My other hot take, just to double back on this, is I do think by next week, for some reason, that the Lakers will finally make a trade that we're able to focus on a lot on our next week's show. So pray for that. I know we all want to see that. Even if it's minor, I would like to see some movement before the next show. So my hot take is going to be at least one trade is made by next week.
Yeah, my hot take for this week, and backing off to at least our summer league team, I feel, at least hot take, that Armo Troy or Blake Hinson will be upgraded to a regular roster spot from the two way. I think that they played well, and if they continue to play well, eventually they'll be on our roster. And like I said, at least continue off Jake's thing is like the Lakers have to make some trades to clear some roster spots. And if some roster spots are available, I'm looking at Blake Hinson or Armo Troy to be getting one of those spots just because I thought they played well in the summer league and they performed well enough that if they continue their momentum, they can be definitely a part of a JJ Redick's rotation, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys. Y'all have some really good hot takes this week, and I'm looking forward to hearing the ones next week. And hopefully, Jake, this time we get that trade to happen, bro. I know we doubled down last week. One has to happen at this point.
Yeah, and I'm gonna keep saying it until it happens. So one of these weeks is gonna be correct. So hopefully this week.
And yeah, that's all for today's podcast, The Quest for 18 Pod on Playback. As mentioned below down in the chat, follow our link tree, whereas all of our socials are both our X/Twitter, our YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, our Spotify. Follow all that where you can get Lakers news, content. We'll be dropping a couple of videos within these next couple of days/weeks. And yeah, always like and subscribe. As always, join the Playback, as mentioned, and have a great rest of your day. So, yeah, peace out, everybody.